There comes a moment when the world stops feeling real. You wake up one day and notice something has changed, not outside, but in the way you see. You go to work, meet friends, scroll through the endless stream of updates and smiles, but everything feels off. Like you're walking through a movie set, surrounded by actors who don't know they're acting. Conversations sound rehearsed, laughter feels forced, the excitement everyone is chasing seems hollow. You look around and realize that the world you once called normal now feels like an elaborate illusion. And the strangest part, you can't unsee it. This is what happens when you begin to see clearly. It's not that reality has suddenly become fake, it's that you've begun to perceive how much of it always was. For years, maybe decades, you moved through life believing the scripts handed to you. What success means, what happiness looks like, what you should want, how you should live. You didn't question it because everyone around you seemed to agree. But once you start to wake up, the spell breaks, the veil lifts, and you begin to see that much of what the world calls real is simply collective pretending. It's subtle at first. You start to notice how people speak in cliches, how their words don't match their eyes. You start noticing how almost every interaction has an agenda, how rarely people actually listen, how often they perform. You notice how people chase approval more than truth, how they confuse productivity with purpose, how they confuse attention with love. You see through the glittering surface of things and sense the emptiness underneath. And once you see it, you can't go back to the comfort of illusion. You can't unknow what you know. That's why awakening feels so disorienting. Because when you start seeing clearly, you realize that most of what you thought was solid was actually made of smoke. The careers, the goals, the relationships, even the self-image you built, they all start to feel strangely hollow. You realize how much of your energy went into playing a part, following the rules of a game you didn't even agree to play. And now that you can see the strings, you can't keep pretending the puppet show is real. For a while, this realization can feel like madness. You might even think something is wrong with you. How could it be that everyone else seems fine while you feel like you're living in a simulation? How could it be that the laughter, the plans, the ambitions all ring false, but you're not broken? You're just waking up. You're beginning to see the layers of illusion that most people never question. You're seeing through the social conditioning that has shaped human behavior for centuries, the need to belong, to be seen, to be validated. Once you start recognizing how deeply those needs drive everything, reality as you knew it begins to crumble. You begin to see how people build entire lives around avoiding pain, how they fill silence with noise so they don't have to feel, how they decorate their cages and call it freedom, how they numb themselves with entertainment, consumption, distraction. And once you see this, the fakeness isn't just out there, it's in you too. You start noticing all the little ways you've been pretending. The way you laugh at jokes that don't resonate. The way you nod in agreement just to keep peace. The way you post things you don't fully believe just to fit in. You start catching yourself mid-performance and asking, who am I doing this for? And that's when everything shifts. Because the truth of awakening isn't about judging the world for being fake. It's about recognizing the parts of yourself that have been asleep. Seeing clearly isn't about superiority. It's about honesty. It's the courage to look at how you've participated in the illusion, how you've contributed to the noise. It's the moment you stop blaming the world and start taking responsibility for your own awareness. But this honesty comes with a cost. Once you stop playing the game, you no longer belong to the crowd. You'll feel like an outsider in places that once felt like home. Parties will drain you. Small talk will exhaust you. You'll crave depth and authenticity in a world that rewards performance. You'll realize how rare genuine connection actually is, and how most people would rather defend the illusion than face the truth. This can be a lonely place, because when you see clearly, you can't unsee the emptiness in the noise. You might try to go back, to rejoin the old rhythm, but something inside refuses. The pretending tastes sour now. You might even feel like you've lost something. The spark, the belonging, the excitement. But what you've really lost is your appetite for illusions. You no longer feed on the same things because your consciousness has changed. There's a moment every awakened person goes through, a kind of spiritual vertigo. You stand between two worlds, the world of sleep and the world of awareness. The old one no longer feels alive, but the new one hasn't fully formed. You feel suspended, weightless, untethered. This is where many people panic. They think they've fallen apart. But what's really happening is that you're shedding what's false. The fake identities, the fake priorities, the fake desires, they're dissolving. And yes, that dissolution feels terrifying, because when the illusion goes, the ego goes with it. But then something unexpected happens. In the stillness that follows, you begin to feel something deeper, something untouched by the fakeness of the world. A still awareness beneath all the roles and expectations. You realize that while the world may feel fake, consciousness itself is profoundly real. It's been there the whole time, quiet, observing, unchanging. You start to sense that maybe what's collapsing isn't reality, but your illusion of it. You begin to see beauty again, but not in the same way. You start finding it in the raw, unpolished moments, in someone's honest tears, in the sound of rain, in silence. The artificial loses its hold on you. You don't crave approval anymore. You don't chase recognition. You don't feel the same hunger to prove yourself. Instead, you start craving truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely. And this is the turning point. The fakeness that once disturbed you now becomes your teacher. It shows you what you no longer resonate with. It pushes you toward authenticity. It forces you to simplify, to strip away, to choose what's real. You stop trying to fix the illusion and start withdrawing your energy from it. You start living differently, slower, more present, more honest. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop explaining yourself. You stop decorating your emptiness and start filling it with silence, with awareness, with truth. At this stage, people around you might say you've changed, and they're right. You're no longer driven by the same unconscious impulses. You don't react the way you used to. You've stopped participating in collective drama. You can see through the outrage, the judgment, the endless cycles of blame. You realize that most conflicts are projections, people fighting with parts of themselves they can't face. You see it clearly. And for the first time, you don't want to participate, but this clarity can make others uncomfortable. They'll project their confusion onto you. They might call you detached, aloof, even cynical. They might accuse you of not caring. But deep down you know that what looks like detachment is actually awareness. What looks like coldness is simply peace. You've stopped needing the noise because you've finally found silence. And in that silence, you start hearing something new, the quiet pulse of truth. It's subtle, but once you tune into it, it becomes your compass. You realize that realness isn't something you find in others. It's something you embody. You become allergic to pretension, to dishonesty, to anything that feels manufactured. You crave only what's authentic, real laughter, real connection, real presence. Gradually, your world reshapes itself. People who still live in the illusion start to fade from your life. You stop chasing them because you understand they're not ready to see yet, and that's okay. You begin to attract those who see like you do, who are also learning to live in truth. Together, you form small circles of awareness in a world still asleep. You share silence instead of gossip. You exchange honesty instead of performance, and for the first time you feel what connection really means. Not minds talking, but souls recognizing each other. Eventually, the loneliness that once haunted you dissolves. You realize that you were never truly alone. You were just surrounded by people who weren't really there. You understand that what you called fake was just unconsciousness. And that realization fills you with compassion, because you see that everyone is waking up in their own time. The people still trapped in illusion aren't your enemies. They're just earlier versions of you. Seeing clearly doesn't make you superior. It makes you humble, because you realize how easily you too were deceived. You see how fragile perception is, how easily the mind can be tricked. You stop trying to preach or convert others. You no longer need to prove that the world is fake. You just live your truth quietly, authentically, radiating the peace that comes from awareness. And as you do, something magical happens. Your presence itself becomes a mirror. People begin to sense that there's something different about you. They can't explain it, but they feel calmer around you, more real. Some will resist it, some will avoid it, but others will be drawn to it. Because truth, even in silence, calls to truth. So if you're at that point where everything feels fake, where you can't stand the noise, where the world feels like a stage and you can't find your role anymore, don't panic. You're not broken. You're just beginning to see. The illusion always collapses before truth emerges. The fake always fades before the real can appear. You're not losing your world. You're gaining your vision. Let the old crumble. Let the false fall away. Let yourself stand in the naked clarity of seeing. It might be uncomfortable at first, even painful, but it's sacred. Because only when the fake becomes unbearable do we begin to seek what's real. And when you finally find it, when you live from it, you'll realize that nothing was ever missing. The truth was never out there waiting to be discovered. It was inside you, quietly watching, patiently waiting for you to open your eyes. So if you're in this moment now, when everything feels unreal, know that it's not the end, it's the awakening. Don't try to go back to the old world. You've outgrown it. Trust your perception, trust your discomfort, trust the truth that's unfolding through you, because once you see clearly, life stops being a performance and becomes a prayer. And when that happens, you'll understand the greatest secret of all. The world only feels fake until you start living real. If this spoke to something deep inside you, leave a comment below. Tell me if you felt that strange sense of fakeness, that silent awakening inside. And if this message brought you clarity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it. Not for numbers, but because someone out there is beginning to see too. Someone who feels lost and doesn't realize they're actually waking up. And maybe your share will be the light they needed to remember what's real.